Marvin, absolutely delighted to see you, and with your father as well.
Isn't it great? It's great to be at such a historic occasion with something nice to celebrate, isn't it? Where we're all here and having a chat.
We were just discussing, it's so rare to get all the different generations of members from the Magic Circle. We have over 1,500 members around the world. To have an event where we're celebrating something is brilliant, isn't it?
Absolutely, and especially here when you think this is where it all started. So it's very poignant for us all to be here, literally just having a good social thing, talking a little bit about magic and on a happy occasion.
And we were saying this is the actual room where they met those 111 years ago.
It feels like that. There's an aura in this room. I can feel it. It's quite magical.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And Dynamo's here. What are your views on Dynamo?
Well, he's been phenomenal for magic, not just in Britain, but worldwide. And I've always said that magic is as diverse as music, and in the same way you've got hip-hop, jazz, classical, funk, whatever, you have different types of magic genres. And if you take the various magicians that there are, and you ask most people a few years ago to name a magician, most people would name 5-10 magicians maximum. Now they can name hopefully a few more, but if you look at those magicians, you know, they all have their own way, and in the same way that, you know, without being disrespectful to any magician past or present, but if you say, let's say, Copperfield, you know, he's sort of the, I don't know, I've got to be careful about that, but Barry Manilow type of Vegas type of thing. Or if you said Siegfried and Roy, sort of Liberace, then you go on to, you know, Paul Daniels was some, you know, the Desert Connor type of thing. Then you go to Penn and Teller, Meatloaf, but David Blaine, Snoop Dogg, and then you Dynamo, Tiny Temple, whatever. He's right with the kids at the moment. His unbelievable amount of people have watched him on his TV series, and to fill out the O2 and do 111 plus dates, unbelievable respect. Just to get some of these things together, there's the utmost respect from me, and I hope everybody in Magic, because it's been wonderful. And it's generous that he's given some time here after such a busy schedule to help us, because he's the magician of the moment.
Oh, absolutely. And the capacity crowds we had outside Northern and Leeds to celebrate that was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was great. It's wonderful.
But as you say, Magic is very much like music on that sort of base, where you have many different styles which accommodate. Tell me what it was like growing up with your father as a huge international superstar.
You know, it was great on the one hand and difficult on the other. You know, I didn't know any different, remember? But I remember often being in the wings when he was performing and stuff like that, or being in the stalls watching him, being quite nervous as a young boy, not knowing if people would really like it. He always did really well, and he got great reaction. But when me and my brother started to go to school here in the UK, he took a decision to sort of work mainly abroad, so we had a normal sort of lifestyle, and he worked in mainly in Holland, where he was the first overseas TV personality of the year. And when we went to see some of his TV series being filmed out there, and seeing the reaction and the buzz that people had around him, it was quite strange for us as a family, you know, to see that. That was one of the first times I really noticed it. But what I notice now is that the love and reaction of because Magic is very much about the history, and he's one of the few people, for example, besides being a past president of the Magic Circle, you know, he's one of the few magicians to have a move named after him as well, as I say. You know, there's not many that you can say that.
And what is the move?
The Berglas effect, you know. I mean, the Berglas effect, you know, any card at any number is really synonymous with him, and I can only think of a handful of others that will be there. And he's been so influential, and it's really nice that the likes of Dynamo, even in the papers a couple of weeks ago, named his top 3 magicians or 5 magicians, and it was and David was right up there, and he said it was his favourite magician of all time, and he actually mentions him in every single one of the 111 shows he did.
He does, and he's very proud and really excited that David is coming along today. When I spoke to him earlier.
That's great. That's great.
As you say, Magic has evolved in a tremendous way.
Yeah.
A lot of people nowadays would credit you and Marvin's Magic for starting them.
Well, that's very nice, and I can't believe that next year's going to be our 30th year of doing that. I must have started when I was about 4 or 5. I don't know. No, seriously, it was incredible. We started at Hamleys on Regent Street with a little counter. Had this concept of magic needs to be shown off properly and designed and packaged well, and it just developed as we got into more and more outlets and more countries, and we're in 64 countries now. We have a huge following, and I like to think that, you know, when you look at some of the top pros in the magic community, they've come up through our ranks, and had some training of doing what they were doing in store to take them to the next.
But that's the great way of doing it, and that's the best way of learning magic, is performing in front of an audience. And many of your famous demonstrators have gone on to be great magicians themselves, haven't they?
Absolutely, it's well documented. The likes of Mark Paul and Anthony Owen and Nick Einhorn and Andy Nyman, even Guy Hollingsworth did a stint.
Yeah, but anybody we've heard of.
These are. I mean, as many as that we've heard of. There's also been some guys in the magic, non-magic. People like Tom Hollander, the actor, Lloyd Earn, the actor. And stuntmen and pickpockets. Even Lee Thompson, who was in Cirque du Soleil doing pickpockets. So there's all sorts of things, and they all say it's just a great reaction, because where else can you perform for so many people on a daily basis without actually having that practice?
And you're right, the amount of times going through the same routine, and great names they are, and they're phenomenally well, that sort of thing.
And interestingly enough, we tend to look back at those names, but there's a whole crop of guys who are there now. And actually, our company in the last 10 years, 64 countries now, in Australia, India, the Middle East. Now we're doing Japan and China. It surprises me when people tell me where they see our stuff.
And it is interesting, because the magic's evolved from the days of the good old 3 cups and balls, which you used to get in all these sets of Paul Daniels, which will come on to in a bit. But you're now doing lots of electronic magic as well.
Yeah, I was just delighted that Marvin's Eye Magic actually won the Electronic Toy of the Year last year. We got 5 major awards, and obviously thrilled about that. Obviously from the Magic Circle, the masculine was something I'm very proud of. From the IBM, the outstanding contribution, which was of course David Berglas trophy, and for him to give that to me was great. But from the toy and hobby industry, which is some of the big boys, Mattel, Hasbro, Lego, to get their outstanding contribution, and then for Marvin's Eye Magic to get the top award for electronic toy, it was great. And that's obviously because kids these days are on their phones, and to incorporate some of the sort of props with stuff that they're doing that they can carry around anytime, anywhere, I think that's what has lit some people's fire and why it's been so well received.
Well, I'm always proud to see these massive fairs around the world. We always bump into each other, and the respect that you have within the industry is just phenomenal.
Oh, thank you very much indeed. Well, I'm really proud to be a big part of the Magic Circle. I know our sets are recommended by them. We try to promote the name out there as well, but it's a phenomenal fraternity we've got, and a very historical fraternity. And I've been a proud member for over 25 years, and I'm delighted to be here on such an auspicious day. And so well done to you for helping get this right.
Really good. And one final thing, we spoke about, your father was a phenomenal president. One president we've never had was Paul Daniels, who you mentioned. What are your views of him?
Well, Paul was obviously sadly missed. I was at the funeral with Dad and Mum last week, and our hearts go out to Debbie. Paul was so instrumental for British magic. We obviously grew up with him. There's only one magician at the time for 20 odd years that was in our homes every Saturday night. So audiences of sometimes 20 plus million. And if I'm not mistaken, he won the Golden Rose at the Montreux Festival. He won that, which is fantastic for magic. And he's respected, of course, by magicians around the world for his unique presentations, which thankfully he's I saw him at the World Magic Congress at FISM, at the Essential Magic Congress, where he worked with Lewis DeMatteis and put so much stuff on tape. And he's obviously such a big influence on everybody here.
So he never made it to the president of the Magic Circle. Those are your aspirations?
It's not my choice. It's the choice of the members. And maybe one day it'll be wonderful to follow in the footsteps. I know I've got a lot of things I'd love to do for magic, but I am on the council and I work hard for the circle all the time.
You certainly do. A real pleasure, Marvin. Thank you very much for coming along.
Angela's at home right now, babysitting my daughter.